Castle Rock, a peaceful enclave nestled in Cowlitz County, Washington, was renowned for its tranquil atmosphere. Its population, numbering around 2,000 residents, was surrounded by dense forests and serene nature trails, far removed from the bustling excitement of a city. On an ordinary Saturday evening, the Cowlitz County Police were settling into their routine night patrol when they received an unusual call. It had been an uneventful day, so the report from Castle Rock was indeed out of the ordinary. Troy Brightbill, the chief criminal deputy at the sheriff's office, found the story baffling when he first heard it from a truck driver. Dispatchers struggled to comprehend the driver's account. Had someone taken a wrong turn, been injured, or required an ambulance? The driver's message sounded bizarre, leaving the dispatchers uncertain if they had heard correctly. Feline, they queried. The driver confirmed that it wasn't a mere cat but something significantly larger obstructing the road. Once the dispatchers grasped the situation, they promptly alerted the authorities and the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Upon arriving at the scene, the police were greeted by an even stranger sound: roaring. How had a lion ended up in Castle Rock? As they approached the source of the commotion, they were astounded to discover it was not a lion but a sea lion. In the middle of the road, a female sea lion, weighing approximately 600 to 700 pounds, was pacing back and forth, emitting roars and barks. It was evident to the wildlife officers that the sea lion was disoriented, but what confounded them was the location. It was a rolling forested area, far removed from the sea lion's natural habitat. The authorities needed to devise a safe plan to return the massive sea lion to her native environment without harm to themselves or the animal. Unfortunately, sea lion wrangling was not part of their training, and the road's dark, winding surroundings, enclosed by dense woods, made the situation even more challenging. The sea lion exhibited aggression, growling and lunging at anyone who ventured within 20 feet of her. Surprisingly agile on land, she caught the officers off guard. Despite her intimidating behavior, there was no denying her cuteness, and she even posed for a selfie with Tesjeet, Corey Huffine. It became apparent to the officers that they couldn't coax her back to the water that night due to her aggression and agility. They hoped that monitoring her as she made her way back to the water overnight would suffice, but they soon realized their error. Additional 911 calls came in, and the sea lion continued to move farther away from the Columbia River, her point of origin. They recognized the need for reinforcements. By Sunday afternoon, crews from the Humane Society, the county's Public Works Office, the State Wildlife Department, and the Sheriff's Office had gathered with a unified plan. Their mission was clear: guide the sea lion back to the river. The Columbia River, known for its abundance of smelt, was a favored habitat for hundreds of sea lions. Ensuring the safe return of the lost sea lion to her home was crucial, and together, they were determined to accomplish it. This task was easier said than done. The team employed large planks of wood to gently guide the agitated sea lion in the right direction, maintaining a safe distance to avoid provoking her. "I think everybody had a faceful of sea lion breath more than once," described Schroeder. Despite the sea lion's occasional deviations, the team continued their efforts to lead her to a cage. They moved slowly, hoping to prevent her from reacting aggressively. Eventually, she found herself in someone's driveway. The team used their wooden shields to carefully guide her toward the cage. The operation required patience and caution, but finally, the sea lion entered the cage, safely removed from the road and out of harm's way. However, the police couldn't let their guard down just yet. With the sea lion in tow, the crews transported her to the Willow Grove boat ramp in Longview, where they released her into the Columbia River. As Schroeder, Brightbill, and other crew members watched her swim away, they couldn't help but reflect on the bizarre and endearing encounter. Surprisingly, quiet towns like Castle Rock occasionally find themselves hosting lost creatures. In rural Carroll, New Hampshire, it's not uncommon to witness animals crossing the streets among SUVs and pickup trucks. While this is usually uneventful, there are moments that defy expectations. The Town of Carroll Police Department has issued warnings to its residents, particularly while driving, to be cautious of moose, deer, and other woodland wildlife on the roads. Though such sightings are common, one particular incident stands out. While driving near Bretton Woods Ski Resort, a Carroll resident encountered a family of black bears led by a protective mother bear, which brought the driver to a halt. Recognizing the mother bear's hesitancy, the driver promptly called the police, seeking guidance on this puzzling situation. State Trooper Thomas Owens arrived at the scene to clear the road and assess the situation. He observed that one of the 4 bear cubs, the runt of the litter, seemed unsure and paralyzed in the middle of the road. Thomas was concerned for the cub's future, as young bears typically stay with their mothers for approximately 1.5 years before becoming independent. Thomas watched as the mother bear paused in the middle of the road, pacing back and forth, waiting for her smallest cub to catch up to the group. It appeared as though she had sensed something was amiss with this particular cub, potentially jeopardizing its future in the circle of life. Unfortunately, in situations like these, mothers often have to make difficult choices to protect the rest of their cubs. According to the North American Bear Center, bear litters with more than 3 cubs are often weaker and have a lower chance of survival. As Thomas observed the mama bear and her 4 cubs in the road, he found himself silently rooting for the smallest cub, hoping it would catch up. However, it became clear that additional assistance was required. It's a majestic experience to witness a family of wild black bears up close, an experience that almost demands a photo shoot. However, the presence of a large crowd of onlookers may have made the mama bear feel threatened, leading her to abandon her weakest cub. She had to move on with her 3 stronger cubs. Recognizing that the runt of the litter had been left behind, Thomas decided to call for professional help. He contacted Fish and Wildlife Services to have an expert come and transport the weak cub. It soon became evident that there was a connection between this incident and another bear cub rescue that had occurred in Carroll just 24 hours earlier. Intriguingly, both cubs were confirmed to be from the same litter, a rather rare occurrence considering that mother bears typically have just 1 or 2 cubs in their first litter. This mother bear had done her best to keep all 5 cubs warm and safe in the den since January. With the rescue of the 2 weaker cubs, she could now focus on caring for her 3 remaining healthy cubs. Both cubs were taken to rehabilitation centers, where they would receive care from veterinarians and access to modern medicine, aiming to help them grow strong enough to eventually return to the wild and become independent. The police department emphasized the importance of keeping bears wild and not feeding them human food or approaching them, even though they may appear adorable. They stressed that the black bears in this incident were handled by professionals and the public should never approach wild animals. It's heartening to know that these fragile cubs were not left to fend for themselves, and they are now under the care of experts. While such occurrences are not common, they highlight the need for human assistance in exceptional situations. Despite the stressful and incredibly risky nature of his mission, Adam maintained his composure as he approached shallower waters. He firmly grasped the bear by the scruff of its neck and carefully guided it toward the waiting rescue boat. Adam successfully managed to pull the powerful predator approximately 25 yards closer to dry land. While moving the bear in the water seemed relatively manageable, the real challenge awaited them on the shore. Eventually, the unlikely pair reached the rest of the rescue team, with the sedated bear posing a potential threat had it suddenly awakened and lashed out at Adam with its formidable claws. Remarkably, Adam emerged from the risky mission with just a single scratch, an outcome that defied expectations. Adam's colleagues provided assistance to both him and the exhausted bear as they gathered their bearings. It took a collective effort and a considerable amount of bravery to navigate through such a challenging situation. The team brought a large tractor to the water's edge to transport the groggy bear back to its home in Osceola National Forest. Carrying the 375-pound animal would have been an insurmountable task without some mechanical assistance. Fortunately, the bear did not sustain any injuries after its adventurous swim. It was safe to assume that after this experience, the massive bear would likely avoid venturing near water for a considerable period. Most importantly, the bear was now safe and back in its natural habitat where it belonged. With any luck, it had learned its lesson about wandering into residential neighborhoods.